Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. Our guest today has been in real estate since 2002 and did his first deal while still in college. He's been involved in a wide range of transactions, including raw land, bulk foreclosure packages, single-family flips, and multifamily rentals. Steve Olson is Director of Sales for the Fourplex Investment Group. Steve, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So to kick things off, tell us about your real estate goals right now.
Well, right now, and it kind of relates to the big crash from 2008, but I took it on the chin in 2008. And one thing that really stood to me is back in 2008, almost everybody that was calling me wanted money. Okay. And that was pretty common for everybody. Yeah. There were a few people that were calling that wanted to give me money, and those were my tenants in my long-term rental properties. And so it really hit me back then that with all the turmoil that the economy was in, rental properties was where I really wanted to be over the long term. So I am trying to stack those up. I want to buy rental properties. I think it's a great long-term play, and it's a great play to save on taxes too.
Yeah. So do you have any set goals that you have? So, I want to acquire so many units this year or dollar volume. Do you even worry about that kind of stuff?
My minimum goal is I want to acquire a fourplex every single year. Right.
Yeah.
And then I've actually started getting into bigger units. We're going through the initial phases of raising money, doing some of these larger syndications that everybody's talking about now. Yeah. I mean, to date, it's just been me, right? I haven't really levered up other people. I've levered conventional loans and banks and such, but every investor, I think, gets to a point eventually where they realize it's not a whole lot more work to do a really big deal, right? And so that's where I'm going to swing for now.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I was just talking with another guest who said that doing $100 million deal was easier than doing a smaller, like $5 million deal.
There's things about that I think are true, right? I represent a lot of clients that buy multifamily properties, and yeah, I'll tell you, if you're a broker and agent, one thing that's a lot easier about that is the mindset of the clients. Yeah. Right. A nervous first time home buyer that's going to occupy the property, they're buying a $200,000 house. They can chew up all your time and drain all your emotional reserves and make you want to change businesses. Right.
Yep.
But an investor is a different kind of client. They have different objectives and they're much more tangible. If you like investments, it's a lot easier to deal with that. You know what people's targets are.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, you mentioned you're in the initial phases of raising some capital to start syndicating some deals. What kind of changes did you have to make with your mindset to go from, a fourplex to those larger deals?
Well, I think that you need to realize that there's not a lot that's really that much different. It's zeros and commas, yeah. and that's intimidating. That gets in a lot of people's heads. Yeah. But it's really funny. I began dealing with banks on big transactions and large volumes for some of the clients I represent and such. And I realized these people that are funding these multi-million-dollar deals are just people. And they're going through a checklist, right? When you're raising money, they're going through this checklist and they're just getting the information that they need. The same thing in many cases that an underwriter would do for a $100,000 home, right? So you're going to go through a lot of those same motions. And so the mindset that I had to go through was to adjust like, hey, are you good enough? Can you actually do this? What makes you so special, right? What makes you think you can go do a deal like this? And I think that's what a lot of people go through because we kind of get beat down as we age into the workforce about how you're actually not that special and all your dreams aren't going to come true. The world's a terrible place.
Yeah.
And none of that is true actually, right? It's the people who go out there and try are the ones who are successful. So I realized, you know what? I can hit the ball off the tee. Why can't I hit a fastball? Right. Yeah. So that's what I started to do. And I'll be the first to admit I'm not all the way there yet. you still find yourself tripping every now and then over mindset things that you have to consciously focus on. If you don't consciously focus on your mindset, you're gonna go the way of the world, right? What is the media? What is everything out there giving you about mindset? That's where you'll end up. So you have to make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message to get across to people, and you put it really, really well. So what are some things that you do maybe daily or weekly, some rituals or routines that help you keep that mindset razor sharp?
Yeah, I think that evolves, right? But I try to read one new book a month. Okay. And I put it on audible.com on my way into the office every day. That keeps me fresh. That keeps me positive and motivated, right? There was a Harvard study years back about people who are learning and growing on a daily basis. They're more optimistic and enthusiastic about life. And I don't know if you've ever found a real estate investor that is just negative and pessimistic about everything and a drag. When they come in the room, the energy goes down. I'm not sure that that's even a thing, right? Yeah. They have to at least be motivated and excited to tackle problems and find deals. And so I've just found that developing your mind and keeping it fresh and growing is a really good first step. And along that line, I just finished a book recently, and I'm sure many of the listeners have already checked it out, called High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. It was an excellent book, and I've really been digging into some of the things that I learned in there. And so on my iPhone that I've got, the reminders, I have a reminder every morning at 10 a.m. to lead. I think leadership is a conscious decision. And so every day at 10 a.m., who on the team could be led today? And that sounds, maybe it sounds a little condescending, but step up, show you've got that vision and that energy for the future, help somebody, serve somebody in the organization, make that conscious effort to be present as a leader every day. And then at 3 o'clock every day, I get another timer, and I'm a little late because we're recording at 3 o'clock my time today. I'll have to do this one here in a few minutes. But I want to take 10 minutes to meditate on what's really important to me. You can get lost in the minutia, in so many details. And if you're not stopping and then stepping back and looking at the big picture and what are you spending your time on? Where is it taking you? What's getting you results and what isn't? Is that all driving towards what really matters to you in your life? Because, you can get lost for years doing something that you actually don't even want to do, that somebody else is making you do, or that you feel obligated to do, or actually something that's not even really getting you any results. And so those are lately the things that I'm focusing on, is that conscious daily leadership, and then also calibrating that compass every single day. Hey, are you on track? Are you doing what you want to do and what is going to get you the most results?
Yeah. And have you noticed a big difference since you started having those reminders?
I have. Yeah, I have. In fact, I shot off a text. My leadership thing was a little late, but just a text of telling one of my colleagues she had done something for our organization that has been a big help to me over the last couple of weeks. And I just reminded her of it, right? Stephen R. Covey talks about that emotional bank account, right? Just trying to make some deposits into other people's accounts today. And people start to smile when they see you. I'll tell you, in real estate, there is no shortage to the amount of favors you're going to need, right?
Yeah.
So being kind and courteous and serving and acting that way to the people that you interact with all the time, you need big balances in those bank accounts if you're going to call in the favors, because you're going to need them at some point. So I have seen some of that, because I had to work my way through some office stuff this week that I think is because we all care and serve each other and value each other. And it's because of that culture that we've created. And then as far as the meditating on what's important, absolutely. I knocked 5 things off of my to-do list today that came from yesterday's thinking time, where I realized I don't care. Right? That's just cluttering up my to-do list. That's a drag on the energy when you see those things that just aren't getting done. I don't know if you're that way. They're just not getting done.
Yeah. And
because I meditated about it, they don't need to get done. What are they doing on there? Get rid of them.
Yeah.
And it just frees you up, and it just gives that positive motion of moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I'm definitely guilty of that as well. You
Yeah.
have a task, you don't want to do it, and it just puts you in that wrong mindset because you're doing something you don't even see the value in doing. Yeah,
Oh, totally. And in this game, right, where we were talking earlier about that mindset, you have to be in to do more, to produce more, to do bigger deals. Right. You can't have those negative drags. And that's not me saying that you should ignore the negative things, right? Bad things happen in business that need to be dealt with head on right away. Right. But there's a difference between dealing with that reality and a lot of those things that are just negative things that aren't reality.
yeah,
Right. You got to be able to sort through those, I think.
yeah. And you mentioned you took one on the chin like a champ back in 2008. Do you mind explaining what happened with you and how you changed your mindset to bounce back from that hit?
Yeah, that took a long time.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of colleagues that were in real estate back during the crash. Now, ironically for me, the crash didn't have a lot to do with real estate. I owned a business at the time, um, and I was doing real estate on the side. I made more money on the side than running a business, right?
yeah,
Um, so I was wrong place, wrong time, too much debt, right? We levered up this company. We were growing, ordering all kinds of inventory. We were going to expand, and we just did it at the worst possible time, right? And so that leaves you questioning these things that we talked about. Like, are you good enough? I mean, wow, were you just stupid, too risky, or irresponsible? And it takes you a while to recover from something like that, right? And I had to ease into it slowly and eventually get to the point where I realized, hey, you know what? I certainly contributed in some ways to that, but also that was a once in like 70 years type of a thing,
yeah,
economic event. A lot of people got clobbered. It's okay, right? And a business partner of mine, we were doing some hard money loans a few years ago, and I had made some moves in my career at the time. I was working for somebody, and I decided I was going to go out on my own 100% of the time and do some property flips here in Utah where I live. And it's so simple how he said it, but he said, hey, nobody ever got rich working for the other guy.
yeah,
And okay, I'm ready to do it again. I understand that. And that's something that, and it's not the whole rich side of things. It's the time, right? If you have financial resources, you get to decide what you're going to do with your time. That's the worst thing about punching a clock, right? When you know, hey, I don't have control over my day to day. I've got to go do what somebody else said. And so making that connection and wanting it enough to realize, you know what? I don't care if I fail. I want this bad enough. If I fail, get back up again, right? So that's how I got there. And I know a lot of people that have kind of got there through similar ways, but you just have to get up again. Sometimes it doesn't even make logical sense why you're getting up. You feel like such a failure and like the odds are stacked against you. But hey, one step at a time sometimes, right? I remember days back then where it was like a couple hours at a time, right? Things were tough. You were getting grinded down into the sand. And so just keep going. And if you can't see how you're going to get 10 miles down the road, then try 10 feet and
yeah.
then, talk to me in 10 feet.
Yeah, and in those situations, would you say that you had the things that are really important to you top of mind? Like for instance, your family or any of that stuff. What was that kind of that carrot in front of you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that the reason you get into those situations sometimes, and also the reason it takes longer to get out, is because you do forget what's important.
Yeah.
You know what? I had another friend tell me, he said, hey, being broke isn't really that hard. Going broke is. Right? That's the
Yeah.
worst part, because you
Yeah.
don't know when is this thing going to hit the ground. And you're still kind of grappling. But once you get there, I realized how tough I was. And and I don't say that to be like, I'm Mr. Tough Guy, but I kind of mean that in the more general sense. Like, we're all very tough, right? When we're not given a lot of choices, we can do very hard things,
Yeah.
right? And do what it takes. And I think that grit that you get from going through that kind of stuff and having to scrap from nothing, whether it was, when you were 18 and left the house and you're starting with nothing, or maybe you were 50 and you lost everything. when you've hit the ground and have experienced no safety net, it adds an edge to you, right? An accountability, a seriousness, an aggressiveness, but also it gives you wisdom, right? You've been through some hard stuff, and I think that's what it did for me.
Yeah. And now you're at the point, you've done a whole bunch of deals. Like I mentioned, introducing you, you've done some raw land, bulk foreclosure, fix and flips. Is there one deal that stands out of all those transactions as a Keystone deal?
Yeah, I think so. It was one of the first deals that I ever did that began this very long process of me realizing you can go big, right? And it was during the real estate boom. So maybe I made money on this deal because I had a pulse. That's what it seemed to take back then, right? But I ended up assigning, some people call that wholesaling, but I assigned a big tract of land near Park City, Utah. And I had 2 hours of work maybe into this deal, a couple of phone calls, some deposit trips to the title company, things like that. Not very much work at all. And I made an assignment fee of $150,000 on that deal.
Yeah.
And I realized, okay, that whole work smarter, not harder thing isn't just a saying, that's a real thing, right? And where you spend your time and hyper focusing and specializing on that is just as important, if not more important than working hard. I don't want to discount hard work. You got to do it.
Yeah.
But it's got to be in the right place. You can work really hard breaking through a brick wall with your head. But that's just hard work for the sake of hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how does somebody go, one of your first deals doing that assignment to getting into, the fourplexes and the smaller multifamily? Like, how did that shift occur in your business?
So I ended up getting a lot into single family rentals, when the economy melted down in 2008 and I was starting to pick myself up and dust myself off.
Yeah.
I did start to realize, hey, there's a lot of really cheap houses out there. And they're not houses that have always been cheap that are in the ghetto. They're probably pretty good areas. And, if this really isn't the end of the world, because a lot of us thought it was back then people are going to want to live in these houses. And it really is just kind of a real life version of the game of Monopoly. I realized, hey, nobody ever got completely wealthy and independent by owning a bunch of greenhouses on Monopoly, right? Nobody wins that game with greenhouses. You got to move to the bigger stuff. And so I kind of realized that, hey, it's the same amount of work to buy this single family house, to get the inspections, to get the financing, to find the deal, to rehab it, to do all these things. It's pretty much the same as a fourplex. And on that fourplex, I've got 4 streams of income to service 1 stream of debt. I kind of like that. And I saw it become a really good hedge against downturns, which I was very cognizant of given where I had come from. And I thought, hey, I like that. And then I started to make some money again, and taxes became a big problem. And I realized, wow, I like the depreciation on these units a lot more, right? And some of the more aggressive tactics you can use on cost segregation studies and such to save on taxes today. And that's what kind of accelerated me into that world. And I've just been reading a lot and studying a lot about the economy. I think, unfortunately, the way the economy is going is that this gap between haves and have-nots is widening. And I've just decided I'd rather be one of the haves. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with helping and everything, but it's just, I know which side of that equation I want to be on.
Yeah.
And there's a big demand for affordable housing for people because it's getting harder and harder and harder for people to afford homes. And I thought, wow, fourplex is a great way to do that. And now you're catching me when I'm kind of transitioning from that and realizing you can go bigger than that. You don't have to come up with 25% down and buy 4 units or under. You can go bigger.
Yeah. So do you wish you got into, let's say, the fourplexes or even the larger deals sooner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. The singles give valuable lessons and there's nothing wrong. I still own some singles, right? Nothing wrong with that at all. I think they're an excellent springboard, right? You can kind of learn on lower dollar volumes and kind of go through this process. I hate to call them training wheels, but maybe that's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
But if you have the means to jump right into the bigger stuff, I think you should do it. And there's so much more education about that stuff now than there was even 5 years ago, right? The multifamily thing was still kind of a mystique 5 years ago. Everybody was doing seminars on single family flips and rentals and things like that. So there's a ton of information out there, and there's a lot of money on the sidelines. There's a lot more money out there right now than there are good deals.
Yeah.
Right? If you can bring good deals, you'll be able to get the money. It's not that simple, but if the deal is good, the rest of these pieces tend to fall into place.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, you're on the cusp now of moving into the larger deals. What are your strategies for starting to have those investor conversations and raise that capital that you'll need to go after the bigger stuff?
Well, I'm kind of lucky because I help run the show over here at FIG, the Fourplex Investment Group, and we have hundreds of investors that have invested in fourplexes that want bigger deals. I'm on the phone with investors in multifamily properties all day. Yeah. It's what I do, right? So it's easy to present those opportunities and to have those dialogues. But I've found that for people who aren't as fortunate as I am, raising capital is more like fishing than it is hunting, right? If somebody knows you're after them, they're going to run away from you. It kind of creeps them out. But, letting people know, oh yeah, I did this deal at this apartment complex. I've just been raising money, talking to people with IRAs. You got to kind of set it out there, because the people that are looking for that kind of thing and are open to kind of that kind of thing, they're going to ask. Yeah. And now you're off and running. Now you're having a conversation that they want to have, instead of you banging them over the head saying, hey, give me money, right? That's the fastest way to lose them. So it's live well, talk about what you're up to, but don't go hit people over the head, and the right people will surface. I can't stress the right people enough, right? Nothing can make your life more of a headache than raising capital from somebody that you don't get along with, or that's super high strung, or that wants to crawl right up into your business and manage every single detail, right? I think working with the right kind of money is very, very important.
Yeah. So do you have any, maybe not checklist, but any key things you want to hit or ask a potential investor? Because you mentioned you've got hundreds of investors right now in your database. How do you vet a potential investor to make sure they're aligned with yourself?
I would walk them through what our business model is like and what a transaction is like, and talk about some of the common bumps in the road that we might hit. I want to see how they react to that. Right? I had a good conversation with one of our clients today, and we were just, he said, hey, I think you guys run a tight ship. I really appreciate it. He's bought multiple properties with us. And I said to him, hey, well, thanks. We really appreciate that. And, even when we do hit those bumps in the road, we do our best to communicate and straighten them out. And he said, well, in business, that kind of stuff happens. Yeah. I want somebody to have that mentality. Right? They need to know that kind of stuff happens, but also you need to handle your business, right? You need to perform, but hey, there's things that nobody could see coming. There's things that happen. And when you communicate honestly and upfront with them, you want the kind of investors that they might not be happy about what you're telling them, but they say, well, sounds like you're doing what you can to fix it. Please keep me updated. Yeah. Instead of somebody who's going to blow everything up and, yell and scream and want to micromanage it. You don't have time for that, right? You have time to communicate with the investors and fix the problem, but not babysit. Yeah,
no, that's very true. So how has getting involved in real estate changed your life?
Oh, it is my life now, right?
It's a lifestyle, yeah.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say, but it's probably the first thing I think of when I wake up every day, right? You roll out of bed and something pops in your head. And for me, it's real estate 9 times out of 10. Some deal I'm working on or some problem I'm trying to sort through, right? Yeah. So it's absolutely changed my life, because we had a meeting at our office here today, and there was a great quote. I can't remember who it was by. It's driving me nuts, but it said, anytime you invest, you buy a day in the future that you don't have to work.
That's a good one. Yeah.
It's a good one. I should find out who said that, right? I probably butchered it. Maybe I can claim it now because it's so butchered. But I just love the idea that right now there's money out there and it's working for me. Because if you're if you have to go trade hours for dollars, if you have to do something every time you need a dollar to come in, that's a long life.
Yeah.
Right. You have to get that money to work. And so that's how it's changed my life, is I've been able to take, when you get a little bit of extra, you invest it, and now it's out there doing something for you. I think that it's Einstein that said that the interest, the man who does not learn how to adequately understand interest is bound to pay it, but he who understands interest is bound to receive it. That's where you got to get. And that's what it's done for me.
Yeah. No,
I butchered that quote too.
Well, we'll just have everybody Google those quotes to get the exact wording.
Yeah, I got you started, but you want it exact. You're on your own there. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing you mentioned too earlier, what was the time aspect as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I have days where I've got to go 16 hours, but that's because I chose to do it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm okay with it. Right. Last week I was out of town at Disneyland and Legoland with the family and kids, and I didn't have to fill out a vacation request or anything like that. I just have to plan it. Yeah. So to me, that's so important. I get to choose my time. I've really been trying to drill that into the kids lately. Yeah. Look, hey, the way life works is if you handle your business, how you spend your free time is up to you. And that kind of blows their mind, because that's not what they're taught at school. It's just stay busy.
Yeah.
Right. I tell them, hey, if you've got your chores done, if you've got everything done, I don't care what you do, as long as it's not stupid or dangerous.
Yeah.
We will micromanage a little bit, right? But that's what it does for you. The time. I mean, that's just so critical.
Yeah, no, that's huge. So Steve, if somebody's looking for some more information about, the Fourplex Investment Group or yourself, where can they find you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's easy. Just go to our website, fig, like the fruit, so FIG.us, and you'll see contact information there. You can book a time. If you think you want to get a fourplex or get into multifamily properties, because we build some of the bigger stuff too, 12, 20, 30 unit buildings and things. Reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you about what your goals are, and we can let you know what projects we have coming up and what we're working on. And we always want to network. We want to hear what you're up to as well. I think investors really need to do that, and always know that they don't know everything. Yeah, there's always more to learn. There's always more to synergize about.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, Steve, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time today to share your real estate success with us.
Yeah, hey, that's great. Thanks for having me on the show, everybody. Thanks so much for listening, and good luck to all of you.
Yeah, that sounds good. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well in your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.